Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content. Subscribe and turn on notifications. With the conviction of a man who lays foundations for a living, that he had built something solid. 11 years of marriage to Faye, 2 daughters, Olivia and Grace. A dependable career as a logistics manager for a major shipping firm in Seattle, Washington. Life had a rhythm he understood. It was a grid of shipping schedules, container weights, and highway routes that took him to ports and warehouses up and down the coast. Weekends were for family, dinners were routine, and everything, he thought, was precisely on track. Faye was 39. She was a high school literature teacher, intelligent, dedicated, passionate about the stories she taught, or so Leo had always believed. Olivia was 9 and Grace was 7. They were whirlwinds of bright energy, of scraped knees and endless questions that Leo loved to answer when he was home. He loved the logic of their curiosity, but in the last 4 months, something had shifted. It was a subtle change, a hairline fracture in the foundation he'd never noticed before. He couldn't put his finger on it, but he could feel it. Faye was different, more distant. Her phone had become a third hand, an extension of her body. She was glued to it, obsessively. The screen would angle away from him whenever he walked into the room. A slight, almost imperceptible movement, but he saw it. Every time. She would laugh at texts he wasn't meant to see. She would whisper on the phone late at night, in the kitchen, claiming it was about a difficult student or a new department policy. "It's just school stuff, Leo," she'd say, her back to him. Then came the weekend plans. Elaborate plans, made only for the weekends when his work schedule sent him to Tacoma or Portland. When he asked, her answers were always vague. Hazy. "I'm just going out with the girls. I'm going to do some things for myself. I need it." Leo tried to push down the unease coiling in his chest. He told himself it was paranoia, a side effect of his job. He spent too much time away, staring at empty highways in the rain. Of course, she was building her own routine. It was healthy. It was normal. He convinced himself of this. He repeated it to himself on long drives, a mantra against the growing silence in their home. He believed it, until that Friday in October. He was in Wenatchee, overseeing the logistics for a new distribution center. The project was ahead of schedule. The final inspection had been pushed to the following week. He called Faye, his voice buzzing with excitement. He could be home by mid-afternoon. They could pick up the girls early, go out for pizza. A surprise. She didn't answer. He sent a text. "Coming home today. Schedule changed. Should we pick up the girls together?" The reply came 20 minutes later. 20 minutes of him staring at his phone, the silence stretching. "No need. I already made plans. See you at home later." That was it. Something about the flat, sterile tone of the message bothered him. It was efficient, dismissive, like a shipping update. He hit the road back to Seattle 3 hours early, a cold knot forming in his stomach. He arrived in the city just after 2. The sky was a familiar shade of bruised gray. Instead of going straight home, he drove to the girls' school. He told himself it was to surprise them. They loved it when he showed up unexpectedly, their faces lighting up before they'd sprint across the blacktop, shouting, "Daddy." He parked in the parent pickup area, near the student exit, and waited. He checked emails on his phone, trying to force a sense of normalcy on the afternoon. That's when he saw it. On the far side of the parking lot, tucked away near the fence that separated the teacher's area, was Faye's silver sedan. And she wasn't alone. A man was in the passenger seat. He was leaning toward her. Laughing. They were too close. The space between them was charged, intimate. Leo narrowed his eyes, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He recognized the face. Cole Preston, the school's music teacher. Leo knew him vaguely from school events. A guy in his mid-30s, with that easy smile and artistically messy hair. Popular with students. Even more popular with the mom. But what Leo saw now wasn't casual. It wasn't professional. Faye touched Cole's arm. She tilted her head in a way Leo knew intimately. It was the way she used to look at him, years ago, back when their story was still being written. Cole held her hand, just for a moment, but it was long enough. Then, he got out of the car. They exchanged a quick, knowing glance that held 1,000 secrets. Cole walked off toward the school building, and Faye just sat there for a second. She looked in the rearview mirror, fixed her hair, and smiled. A private, satisfied smile. A smile that wasn't for Leo. His stomach turned over, violently. This wasn't paranoia. These weren't innocent plans. This was real. He swallowed the anger, the raw, metallic taste of betrayal. He took a deep breath, and another. Then he got out of his car to pick up his girls, forcing his face into a mask of paternal joy. Olivia and Grace ran to him, their small bodies crashing into his. "Daddy!" He hugged them tightly, holding on to that moment of purity, of untainted love, while his mind raced, calculating, planning his next move. This was a problem, and Leo Vance was a man who solved problems. He took the girls home. He played with them in the living room. He helped Grace with her math homework, his voice calm and steady as he explained fractions. But every second was a performance. Beneath the surface, the weight of unconfirmed betrayal was crushing him. Faye got home at 6. She was cheerful, carefree, as if nothing was wrong. "Hey, honey," she said, kissing him mechanically on the cheek. "I thought you weren't coming back until tomorrow." She walked into the kitchen, already shedding the day. Leo waited. They had dinner. They talked about school, about Olivia's upcoming soccer game, about Grace's spelling test. Faye didn't mention Cole. She didn't mention being with anyone in the parking lot. She lied by omission, and that confirmed everything Leo needed to know. After the girls were in bed, asleep in the home he paid for, Leo sat on the living room couch, the house silent around them. "Faye," he called out. His voice was quiet, controlled. She came in from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel. "What's up?" she asked, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. "I need to ask you something," Leo began, keeping his voice perfectly level. "How was your day?" Faye frowned, confused. "It was normal." "Why? Normal how?" "Leo, what's going on? Just tell me how your day was." "Faye, what did you do after school?" She hesitated. He saw it, a flash of panic in her eyes before it was quickly suppressed. "I went to the market. Then I came home." "Why are you interrogating me?" Leo leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. He looked straight at her. "Funny, because I saw you today, in the school parking lot, with Cole Preston. You two looked awfully close." Faye's face went pale. For a moment, she stood completely still, like an animal caught in the glare of headlights, a trap snapping shut. Then came the automatic denial. "Leo, it's not like that. At all. Cole is my coworker. We were just talking." "Talking?" he repeated, his voice sharp now, the control slipping. "Faye, I saw how you looked at him. I saw him hold your hand. Don't treat me like an idiot. You're being paranoid. Then show me your phone." The silence that followed was deafening. It filled the room, thick and suffocating. Faye pressed her lips together, her eyes glistening with defensive tears. "Don't you trust me?" "I trusted you for 11 years, he shot back. "Now I'm asking you, show me the phone." She crossed her arms, a wall going up. "I'm not showing you my phone. That's an invasion of my privacy." Leo stood up. He walked toward her in measured steps, like a predator closing in. "Faye, give me the phone. Now." "No." But Leo was tired of playing this game. He was done. He strode past her and grabbed her purse from the kitchen counter. She screamed, a short, sharp cry of outrage, trying to stop him, but he was faster. He found the phone, even as she tried to yank it from his hands. He typed in the passcode he knew by heart. 0418. Their anniversary. She never imagined he'd remember. Faye tried to grab the phone back, but Leo pushed her away, his patience finally snapping. He opened the messaging app. Cole's name was right there, at the top of the recent conversations. Leo opened it, and he started scrolling. What he saw in the next dozens of messages destroyed whatever hope he had left. It burned his world to the ground. "Can't wait for this weekend. My place. The girls will be with Leo's parents. You're amazing, Cole. I don't know how I lasted this long without feeling this. Leo's traveling again next week. 3 whole days. Just for us. He doesn't notice a thing. Always working, always gone. You make me feel seen. You make me feel alive again. Sometimes I wonder if he suspects, but then he just acts like always. Predictable. I love you, Cole. This is real." Leo's legs nearly gave out. There were months of messages. Months. Lunchtime meetups when he thought she was grading papers. Weekends when he was traveling and the girls were supposedly at their grandmother's. Vague plans about a future together. "When we finally sort this out." In a message from August, Cole had called Leo a work-obsessed ghost who didn't deserve her. Faye had agreed. Leo looked up from the phone. He stared at Faye, who was leaning against the kitchen wall, crying. But they weren't tears of regret, they were the tears of someone who'd been caught. Almost a year, Leo said, his voice trembling with a cold, terrifying rage. Almost a year, Faye, right under my nose, in my home, with my daughters just down the hall. Oh, Leo, I can explain. Explain? He let out a bitter, humorless laugh. Explain that you've been sleeping with your coworker while I was out there working to support this family. Explain that you called me predictable to the man you were screwing behind my back? Don't talk like that. How should I talk, Faye? Politely? Should I say, thank you for cheating on me for a year and mocking me in your texts? She sobbed, covering her face with her hands. I'm sorry. I felt so alone. You were always traveling, always focused on work, so it's my fault. He tossed the phone onto the couch. My fault. I worked to give you and the girls a comfortable life. Paid for this house, this life, while you were off having fun with Cole. I'm sorry. It was a moment of weakness. A year isn't a moment, Faye. It's a choice. Hundreds of choices. Every single day. Leo walked to the door and grabbed his car keys. Faye ran after him, her voice frantic. Where are you going? To a hotel. I'm not sleeping in this house tonight. Leo, please. We can talk about this. We can fix this. He stopped at the door. He looked at her one last time, a stranger in the entryway of their broken home. There's nothing to fix. You destroyed this. And on Monday morning, he said, his voice flat and final, I'm filing for divorce. Faye froze, the reality of his words finally hitting her. You can't. What about the girls? I'll fight for shared custody, he said, his hand on the doorknob. But you'll have to be the one to explain to them why Daddy doesn't live here anymore. He walked out, closing the door behind him. He didn't look back. That night, in a generic hotel room near the airport, Leo cried. For the first time in years, he cried for the betrayal, the humiliation, the lost time, the sheer waste of it all. But when the sun rose on Saturday, casting a weak, watery light over the city, something inside him had changed. The sadness was hardening, turning into determination. He would not be the victim in this story. He refused. He wouldn't let them win. On Monday, Leo hired one of Seattle's most respected divorce attorneys. He presented the screenshots of the messages, a chronological history of the affair. His lawyer assured him he had a strong case. Washington was a no-fault divorce state, but a documented history of infidelity still influenced decisions, especially concerning assets and the division of the life they had built. His methodical evidence gathering served him well. Faye called, dozens of times. She sent desperate, pleading messages. I made a mistake. Please, Leo, don't throw this away. He blocked her number. All communication would go through their lawyers. It was cleaner that way, more efficient. In the months that followed, their lives split into two separate, divergent realities. Faye and Cole went public. She moved into his cramped apartment in Capitol Hill, a space that felt temporary and transient compared to the spacious home she'd lost. Her social media, which Leo checked with a grim sense of purpose, filled with forced happy photos, trips to the coast, smiling selfies at concerts, trying to prove to the world and maybe to herself that she'd made the right choice. But Leo could see the sadness behind the smiles, the strain. Leo, on the other hand, focused on himself. He channeled his rage into something productive. He joined a boxing gym downtown, learning to translate the chaos in his head into the sharp, clean impact of his gloves against a heavy bag. He started running every morning before work, the cold Seattle air burning his lungs, clearing his mind. For the first time in years, he took care of himself. He started therapy. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but he learned to use it as fuel. He dove into his work, leading a complex port expansion project that brought significant recognition to his firm. His boss, impressed by his focus and resilience during what he knew was a difficult personal time, offered him a promotion. Senior Logistics Director. Leo accepted. The girls were placed under shared custody. 1 week with him, the next with Faye. It was hard on them. He could see it in their eyes. But Leo did everything he could to make sure they felt loved and secure. He never, ever spoke ill of Faye in front of them, even when the words were screaming in his head. It was in the 4th month after the separation that he met Sophia, a mutual friend, worried about him, organized a casual dinner. Sophia was there. She was a restaurateur, the owner of a successful bistro in Fremont. She was 35, with a sharp wit and an infectious energy that took Leo by surprise. She was also rebuilding her life after a divorce. She had an 8-year-old daughter. They talked for hours that first night. They discovered unexpected connections. Both loved hiking the rugged trails around Mount Rainier. Both had survived imploding marriages. Both were fiercely dedicated to their children. Sophia was unlike anyone Leo had ever known. Direct, ambitious, funny, and completely unafraid to be vulnerable. On their next few dates, Leo felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Sophia made him laugh. She listened without judgment. When he finally told her about Faye and Cole, she simply took his hand and said, "You deserve better, and you will find better." Over time, they became inseparable. Their daughters got along well. And suddenly, Leo's life, which had seemed shattered just months earlier, began to flourish in ways he'd never imagined. He was happier, healthier, more confident. The pain of the betrayal was still there, a faint scar, but it no longer defined him. Meanwhile, Faye was beginning to realize her mistake. Leo saw it during their brief, tense custody exchanges. The forced brightness was gone from her eyes, replaced by a weary exhaustion. The thrill of the affair had faded, leaving behind the dull reality of everyday life. Cole, who had seemed so exciting and passionate, turned out to be shallow and immature. He complained about the girls when they visited. He grew irritated by Faye's responsibilities as a mother. He spent more time with his band or with his friends than with her. Romantic texts had given way to arguments about rent, about space, about unmet expectations. 6 months after the separation, during a pickup, Faye saw him with Sophia for the first time. Leo saw the sharp pang of envy in her face. Sophia was everything Faye wasn't anymore. Secure, accomplished, genuinely happy, and Leo looked at Sophia the way he used to look at Faye all those years ago. Before everything fell apart, the day of the final divorce hearing arrived on a cold February morning. Rain lashed against the windows of the King County Courthouse. Faye woke up with a knot of dread in her stomach. She and Cole had argued the night before. He hadn't wanted to come to court. "It's your drama, Faye," he'd said. She had to beg him. She imagined she'd see Leo alone, broken, still suffering. A part of her, a dark, selfish part, needed to see that. To feel that her choice hadn't completely destroyed him, that she was somehow better off. But when she and Cole walked into the sterile, quiet courtroom, and Leo entered from the opposite side, Faye felt the floor drop out from under her. He was almost unrecognizable. It wasn't just physical, though he was clearly leaner, healthier, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit that made him look powerful. It was his posture, his confidence, the profound sense of peace on his face. And beside him, holding his hand, was Sophia. She wore an elegant dark green dress, her dark hair falling in soft waves. She had a warm, calm smile on her face. They looked like a power couple, successful, happy, complete. Cole noticed too. He whispered, "Who's she?" Faye couldn't answer. Her throat was too tight. The hearing was technical, professional. The judge reviewed the terms. Asset division per Washington state law. Shared custody, with a detailed visitation schedule. Child support. The evidence of infidelity presented months earlier had influenced the final decisions about certain shared assets. Faye received significantly less than she had expected from the division of their home's equity. Leo, on the other hand, kept most of his personal savings and his 401k intact. Throughout the entire hearing, Leo showed no anger, no bitterness. He was simply present. He answered the judge's questions clearly. He signed the documents with a steady hand. Sophia remained beside him, a silent but palpable source of support. Cole, meanwhile, was discreetly checking his phone. Bored, when the judge finally banged the gavel and declared the divorce finalized, a wave of conflicting emotions washed over Faye. Relief, sadness, and a corrosive envy she couldn't control. She watched Leo and Sophia talking quietly. She saw Sophia squeeze his hand tenderly and whisper something that made him smile. That smile, Faye hadn't seen him smile like that in years. Maybe she'd never seen it at all. As people began leaving the courtroom, Faye approached them in the hallway. She had to. "Leo, wait." He stopped and turned to her. Sophia stayed beside him but took a discreet step back, giving them a sliver of space. "Hi, Faye," Leo said. His voice was coolly polite, neutral. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything, she said, her eyes brimming with tears. Leo studied her face for a moment. She searched his for any sign of the old anger, the old pain. But there was nothing. Only indifference. I know you are, he said calmly. But being sorry doesn't change what happened. You seem different, Faye said, her voice breaking. You're doing well. I am, Leo agreed, a simple statement of fact. I'm actually doing really well. Faye's gaze drifted to Sophia, then back to Leo. Does she make you happy? He didn't hesitate. Yes, she makes me happy. And I make her happy. It's that simple. Tears streamed down Faye's face now. I ruined everything, didn't I? Leo sighed. And for the first time, there was a hint of something other than indifference in his voice. Maybe compassion, maybe just finality. You made choices, Faye. I made mine, too. Now we both have to live with them. Do you hate me? She whispered. No, Leo said, and it felt honest. I don't hate you, but I'm not the man you knew anymore, either. I've changed. I've moved on. And you should, too. Sophia lightly touched Leo's arm. He understood the signal. We'll pick up the girls on Friday at 6. Take care of them until then. Faye could only nod, unable to speak. Leo and Sophia turned and walked down the long courthouse hallway. Faye watched them go. Near the exit, she saw them stop. Sophia leaned in and kissed him gently, a genuine, loving gesture. He returned it, smiling against her lips. They left together, talking softly, laughing at something she would never know. Cole appeared at her side, impatient. Can we go? I have a rehearsal at 3. Faye looked at him. Really looked at him. And she saw what Leo must have known for months. Cole was never the answer. He was just an escape. A fantasy that had crumbled under the weight of reality, and now she was stuck with her choice. Watching the man she betrayed walk forward into an extraordinary life, while she was left drowning in regret. Yeah, Faye whispered, wiping her tears. Let's go. But as she followed Cole to the parking garage, she glanced back one last time. She saw Leo opening the car door for Sophia. A simple, gentlemanly gesture. They looked so right together. So complete. And Faye realized, far too late, that she had destroyed the best thing she ever had. She had come to court expecting to see Leo broken, humiliated, alone, but it was she who left shattered, while Leo Vance, the predictable man she'd looked down on, was reborn into a life she could never be part of again. The wipers swished rhythmically across the windshield, clearing away the Seattle drizzle. Inside the car, it was warm and quiet. Sophia was in the passenger seat, scrolling through the music on her phone, a small, contented smile on her face. Leo drove, his hands steady on the wheel. Outwardly, he was the picture of calm, the victor, the man who had moved on. But inside his head, the courtroom scene was playing on a loop. Not the judge's words, or the signing of the papers, just Faye's face, the way her expression crumpled when she saw him with Sophia, the raw, undisguised envy in her eyes, the tears streaming down her cheeks as she whispered, I ruined everything, didn't I? A grim, undeniable satisfaction settled deep in his gut. It wasn't about his own happiness. Not really. It was about her loss. His joy felt inextricably linked to her misery. He needed to see her broken to feel whole. The victory wasn't in finding Sophia. The victory was in Faye realizing what she had thrown away. He glanced at Sophia. She was beautiful, successful, kind. She was everything a man could want. She was the trophy he had won. A cold thought, sharp as a shard of glass, pierced through his self-congratulation. Is this real, or was this just another structure? Another perfectly planned project he was building to prove something? He had built a life with Faye, believing in its solid foundation, only to watch it crumble. Now he was building another one with Sophia. Faster, stronger, better. But was he a different man, or was he just a better builder, using the wreckage of his past as a blueprint for a more resilient facade? He was the man who survived, the man who got the promotion, who found the better woman, who won. That was the story. He had told it to his lawyer, to his therapist, to his friends. He had told it to himself so many times that he almost believed it completely. Almost. What are you thinking about? Sophia asked, her voice soft. She had found a song she liked and turned to him, her eyes full of warmth. Leo looked at her, at this perfect, wonderful woman who had entered his life at exactly the right moment. He summoned the smile he was supposed to have, the smile of a man reborn. "Nothing," he said, his voice smooth and reassuring. "Just how lucky I am." Sophia smiled back, content with the answer. She reached over and squeezed his hand, but the smile on Leo's face didn't quite reach his eyes. He had won the war with Faye. He was sure of it, but as he drove through the rain-slicked streets of his new life, a quiet, unnerving echo remained. The echo of a man who, despite everything, was still fundamentally, terrifyingly, unsure of his own foundation. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.